One of the biggest debates in psychology is whether or not our intelligence stems from one generalized intelligence or is multiple. The first theory is that the idea of centralized or singular intelligence. The most commonly accepted single intelligence is the G factor. The G factor was created by Charles Spearman in 1904. The G factor is the theory that intelligence is one centralized idea and encompasses all other aspects of intelligence. This would mean that all types of activities and talents are into one larger group. For example, interpersonal, kinesthetic, English, math, music, and all other sorts of important skills all fit into one category. One reason this is so widely accepted is because of the raw data and tests to prove this. For example, if someone does well on math, it is likely that they also are going to do well on English. This theory has a lot of tests behind it that are sought to help fix this. The biggest theory is Spearman's very own factor analysis. Factor analysis is defined as a statistical procedure for describing the interrelationships among a number of observed variables. Factor analysis is used to measure variables that cannot be measured directly, to summarize large amounts of data, and to develop and test theories. This is applied to intelligence as factor analysis is used to summarize and explain unmeasurable data to provide support for the theory. Another way this is proven is through IQ tests such as the Stanford Binet, but these are often very controversial because they are based off the notion that there is an assumption that the G factor has to be real and there is one sole intelligence. In addition, these tests are very predicative of the future, and it is widely accepted that these test scores predict school achievement moderately well with correlations around 0.5. This is commonly used because of, the G factor is commonly used because of factor analysis and the validity of IQ tests. The other debated side of intelligence is multiple intelligences. There are two main proposed theories, Howard Gardner's 7 types of intelligences and Robert Sternberg's triarchic theory of intelligence. Gardner's hypothesis states that there are 7 specific types: verbal, logical, spatial, kinesthetic, musical, interpersonal, and intrapersonal. There have also been 2 recent editions of naturalist and existential, as well as many other proposed ones. This argument for this model is that people have different strengths and weaknesses, and generally those can be categorized into 7 or 9 categories. One of the biggest issues with this idea is that there's little data to prove it, and there's really no way of testing or verifying it. And Gardner himself explained that he has declined to specify whether he thinks the components of intelligence and how they might be measured. Sternberg also proposed a theory of multiple intelligences, but it only has 3. It has practical, analytical, and creative. And a good example of practical would be solving the subway system, knowing maps, and knowing traffic times, which is different than analytical or creative. Just like the other theories, the biggest flaw is the lack of research and difficulty to test and lack of data. While data might be limited, there is some evidence that can help prove the theory. And one of the biggest pieces of evidence are people with savant syndrome and prodigies. People with savant syndrome might have difficulties doing everyday activities and skills, but they might excel at things such as piano or math. This supports multiple intelligence theory because it demonstrates how someone can have a lower intelligence in some areas but excel in others. And other evidence to support this theory is that the fact that the sets have different core sets of operations. For example, musical intelligence might have melody, harmony, and tempo, whereas linguistic sets would have syntax, rhythm, and literary tools, so core values. And these all sort of lead down to one really big question, which we all kind of have to ask ourselves when we're thinking about this, and which of these do we have? And that can really be broken down into a lot more smaller questions. So sort of the first question is, which of these sort of has the most data to prove it? And clearly the G factor has a significant amount of data to back it up, whereas multiple intelligence theory has a lot of speculation and it really lacks necessary information. And the next question is, how can we apply these theories to our lives? And really the main application for these theories are in schools. And a lot of schools used to lean towards traditional intelligence values such as IQ tests and focusing solely on mathematics and linguistics, but since multiple intelligence has been gaining popularity, schools are sort of switching to this idea. and they help with curriculum development, planning, instruction, selection of course activities, and related assessment strategies. Instructions which all help design students to develop their strengths and trigger confidence. And the next question we sort of have is, to what extent is something considered an intelligence? So according to Gardner, there were 7, but he slowly developed more, and at some point is up to 10 now. So if musical ability is considered an intelligence, is that the same for cooking or humanitarian or film? Or are those just skills or talents, but not really intelligences? And that sort of leads down to the biggest question, which is, which one of these should we believe in? And out of the 3 theories, so Gardner's 7/10 intelligences, Sternberg's triarchic theory of intelligence, or Spearman's G factor, in my opinion, I would choose the triarchic theory, because it has main components that are all separate, but can include a variety of categories within them. It is not confining intelligence to one thing, and that we all are based off of one idea, but it's also not stretching the term out too much, so it's not too many, too specific things. And in the end, we might not never know the truth behind how many we have, but in your opinion, which one of these do you think you have?